Hi, I'm Kerry with Best of Us in Retirement. Been retired since 2005. I'm 76 years old, and I think I've got a pretty good handle on retirement. And I want to share that with you. There's no reason this should be trying times unless, of course, you make them so. So I look back at it and I said, well, there's basically 7 steps that you got to take to get to a happy retirement. And they come in somewhat of an order, but they are, for the most part, stacked to the first couple years of retirement. I retired actually in 2005, so I retired early. I took my Social Security early, basically because I wanted the money and I felt I could invest it better than the government could. And it had nothing to do with need or my financial situation. I just felt I was a better investor than they were, and I could do better. But the first thing you have to do, and it's kind of intimidating, is that of signing up for Medicare. And the interesting thing is, unless you got involved in it with your parents or your grandparents, you know nothing about it. You didn't pay attention as people were talking about Medicare because it didn't apply to you. But all of a sudden it does. So what I did was basically do a little bit of research. I Googled, I learned the ages, I learned the options. But what really comes into play is the Part A, the Part B, and the Part C. And as I went at it, I decided the company that I thought I wanted to sign up with. And in Birmingham, in Alabama, that was Blue Cross Blue Shield. So they send out little notices that they'll be at the library and they'll be putting on some instructions. And so Nita and I went to one of their instructions. And then when it was over, I liked the guy that made the presentation. I went up afterwards and said, "Can I get an appointment with you?" And that's exactly what happened. And what I realized was our situations were different because I didn't have any medical conditions. On the other hand, Nita did. So what I was looking for was something that didn't cost me anything. And as far as Nita's, I was interested in the best coverage. She had had a brain tumor. She had had some in early times. She had had some what was it? Something taken out, a blood clot in her brain. So she had some issues. She was on medication. So I needed to get him to explain to me, based on her conditions, what was the most economical and the best protection plan for us. I still don't pay anything because I don't have any medical issues. I have high cholesterol and that's all it is. So I'd recommend you do a little research on the companies that you want to consider, and then go to this class and then set up an appointment and adapt it to your personal needs. That was how we went about it. Then the next thing that I think is paramount is to make a retirement budget. That is to say, what does it cost you to live, and what is your projected income? And the first thing you want to do is figure out your fixed expenses, your food, your housing, your insurance, your taxes. And then you want to make a second category for your flexible, where you have some say-so as to what it's going to cost you. And those include clothing, gifts, different people. You know, if you've got grandchildren and children, this is something that Nita is adamant about. Everybody's got to get the same amount, and so gifts is a flexible amount, and it's something that the husband and wife or spouses have to come to an agreement on. What are we going to do here? Because this can be backbreaking. Because you've got birthdays, you've got Christmas, you've got Easter, you've got graduation, you've got marriages. You've got to establish what is your gift tolerance. And then, of course, if there's dining and entertainment, and you need to set some parameters with which you are willing to live with and set up a budget. And again, learn how to use an Excel spreadsheet so that you can create that budget. And then every month, go to your checking account, or in my case, I only use credit cards. We don't use, for the most part, cash. The only thing I pay cash for is my haircut. And know what you're spending. Then in your budget, create the matching incomes. What are the fixed incomes? That's your Social Security, if you have a pension, if you have an annuity. And then the flexible incomes is both your investment and any part-time or gigs that you might have to generate income. And I honestly believe that every retired person should have some side gig, some sort of way to generate that extra income that makes life just a lot easier. It really does. Okay, step number 3, how to maximize your Social Security. This is sometimes a moving target. Right now, if you were born in 55 or before, your first retirement is at your full retirement is at 66. If you were born in 60 or later, then it's 67. But you can still, I believe, under both cases, get your partial or early retirement at 62. It's very easy to figure out what that is. You just go and Google it, and you find out what your payment's going to be. What is the determining factors about when you start taking your Social Security? Because if you don't take it at 67, the full retirement, every year you postpone it till 70, you get a 8% increase. But what really needs to be considered here is your life expectancy and your need. If you need it to make it to 70, then you need to take it. On the other hand, if you don't need it until you're 70 and you have a long life expectancy, merely look at your parents and your grandparents and figure out and your health, and figure out what is your potential life expectancy. In my case, my mother died of cancer when she was 27. So I'm already, my grandfather died, both of my grandfathers, one grandfather I never knew. My other grandfather died at 57. But he was a chain smoker. I remember him. He had those little papers. You remember that? He had these little papers he'd take out in one hand. He could take that paper, and then he had a little bag of tobacco, and he put that tobacco in there, and then he'd sit there and smoke those crazy things. No filters, no nothing. So his life expectancy wasn't all that long, I guess. And then on the other hand, both of my grandmothers lived quite long, and my father lived to, I guess he was about, must have been about almost 90 years old. So my life expectancy is good. And more importantly, and be honest with yourself here. If you're obese, be honest. You don't have a long life expectancy. Fat people don't live long because their heart can't keep up with it. If you aren't committed to staying in shape and keeping your heart alive, don't lie to yourself. You don't have a long life expectancy. So you might want to take your Social Security early and get the most of it that you can. Now it's time, step number 4 is to review your portfolio. Review the investments you have and come up with your risk tolerance and your willingness to commit to managing your money. This is important. To me, I spend a good part of my life managing my money. I am very interested in the stock market. I am interested in the future. I'm interested in learning about the future. So I have a very high risk tolerance. Yet I put 50% of my portfolio in what I would call blue chip tech stocks. The Apples, the Google, the Amazon, the Facebook, the Microsoft, and Tesla. That's 50% of my portfolio. The other are aggressive growth stocks. That's biotech, that's 3D printing, that's the metaverse. These are things that interest me, excite me, and I want to know about them. And that's how I keep my mind active and stay young. I think that's important. But from that point, the conventional, when I was a financial advisor, it was 55% stocks, 40% bonds, and 5% cash. I basically subscribe to 5% cash and 95% stocks. I don't own any bonds. I don't see any reason to. If I want a bond type investment, I'll buy a blue chip dividend producing stock. Number 5, set your withdrawal plan. And that is to say, if we're going to draw down our retirement savings, at what rate are we going to draw them down based on the budget that we built in step number 2? Okay, so there's kind of two channels. Actually, there's 3 channels. The first one that most people subscribe to is take it when you need it. That's probably a mistake. It's better to have a plan. There's a 4% plan, and that is to say you take 4% of whatever your assets are worth on your investment assets on an annual basis, and then adjust it year by year by inflation. That, for the most part, will guarantee you about a 30-year drawdown period, which will take you to about 95. Okay. Then the next option, which I kind of like, if you are going to draw down, is the bucket strategy. In the bucket strategy, you basically go back to your budget, determine your needs, and you fund your first 3 years with cash. You put it in a CD, which you'll get nothing, or a savings account, and you've got it for the first 3 years. So now you don't care about the stock market. You don't care what it does for the next 3 years because you funded those 3 years. So bucket number 2 is then with blue chip stocks, and bucket number 3 is long-term growth. Now, how much goes into bucket number 2 and number 3 is, again, based upon your risk tolerance and your life expectancy. So you need to do some calculations there. I would say in bucket number 2, that's a probably blue chip and stocks and blue chip tech stocks. That's the S&P 500. So you can say, well, that's going to grow at 8%. Long-term growth, there you're going to say that's probably going to grow closer to 12%. So again, take that back to your step number 2 on making a budget and build your buckets that way, and then just adhere to it. Step number 6 is pension choices. This is not not a step you'll take if you have no pensions. But if you do have a pension, you're going to have the option of a lump sum or a guaranteed life payment. I never liked guaranteed life payments, but again, that's because I'm active in the stock market. I think I can do better than what they're going to guarantee me. I think I can invest my money better than someone else can who is investing for a broad range and has a very low risk tolerance. I have a very high risk tolerance. In fact, I enjoy taking risks. I guess someone said I'm an overachiever. What that meant to me was I achieved beyond my recognized capabilities. You're not that smart, Gary, but somehow you get by with it. Okay. So and then, as I said, you got to figure survivor's benefits. And again, that comes back to making your budget and figuring out what you're going to need, and then how this annuity is going to play into it. And then step number 7 is it's something that I'm a little adverse to. Consider an annuity, and that is to say, okay, if I don't have high risk tolerance, if I just want to make sure I live until I die, meaning that you have enough money until you die, you spend your last nickel as you spend your last breath, then you might want to take that investment fund that you have, that investment savings, and annuitize it. And basically say, to an insurance company, here's all my money. You now guarantee me a lifetime income. Okay? Again, I think I can do better than them in investing. So that is something I wouldn't do, but that doesn't mean it isn't right for you. Another consideration is a reverse mortgage. In fact, I just got a email or a comment on a video about a reverse mortgage. I'm adverse to that. People will only lend you, give you money relative on a reverse mortgage if they think they're going to come out on the other end better, so that your house is going to appreciate as they pay you as long as you live. If for that house, that's a reverse mortgage. They only do that if they think they can make money on it. So I don't like it. And the other thing I don't like about either the annuity or the reverse mortgage is you're basically writing out any of your heirs. You're not leaving anything behind. It's going to, with a reverse mortgage, it's going to end up with the bank. Then something that a lot of people don't really think of is sell your insurance policy. Particularly if you have an illness and you have a short term to live, and you're okay that your heirs aren't going to get that insurance policy. This became very popular back in the day of AIDS, and I've mentioned this in other videos, that you were diagnosed with AIDS and your doctor said you had 5 years to live, and you had a $500,000 life insurance policy, and you were 36 years old, and they said, did I say 5? Let's say they said you had 2 years to live. Well, you went and sold that $500,000 life insurance policy to someone for $250,000. You got the $250,000. You live out your life. You die 2 years later, and they get the $500,000. It's a good investment for them. You can still do that. There's not as much of a market for it, but you can sell a life insurance policy. It is an asset, and therefore it has value to somebody. So those are the steps I think that you need to take prior to retirement. And I think that the Medicare is important. You also need to recognize that every December, I believe it is, or it's November through the end of the year, you have the option to change your elections on your Medicare. So you're not locking it into stone for forever. So those are options. But still, I think the starting point on here is this budget. Step number 2 is make a budget so that you know what it's going to cost you and what you anticipate coming in. Once you do that, then I would say a step that isn't, I'll call it step number 8, is find a side gig. Find something that you can do that you're passionate and you love. Hell, you deserve to spend the last years of your life doing something that you're passionate. I'm passionate about this, and it's a side gig. And yeah, I spend some time doing it, but I love it. I enjoy it. Over on the Best of Us Investors, we have a Discord twice a week, 3 times every other week. I get on a Zoom call with these people and we talk. These become my friends. These become the people that speak the same language I speak and are literally interested in what Carrie has to say. So it brings a lot of pleasure to me. Okay, that's my take on the 7 steps to a happy retirement. And I'll be talking to you again soon.